Happy Wednesday.
Hey, 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 hey.
Okay. I was trying to send this text. It just did not work.
When I say that, it always reminds me of Fat Albert. Hey,
Okay.
so I need a new greeting.
It's Wednesday and the elevators are back.
We're back.
And we just appreciate all of you for hopping on, listening to us. Let me skip that introductions. I am Gail, your personal development coach.
And I am Tammy, your spiritual motivator.
And as you can see, Miss Jessica is absent today, but yes, this is still tax season, and she's with a client today, so she couldn't be with us, but she's here in spirit. So yeah, and we had such an overwhelming response last week about our guest that we decided to bring Miss Leah back today.
Yay!
Leah is here with us to
Thank
wrap
you.
up our
Non-negotiable. You did such a fabulous
Thank
job.
you. I had such
Yes.
an amazing time.
I just want to be here with you. I was like, no.
I felt you.
Yeah,
But
that's my girl.
I'm so happy to be back. I'm very happy to be
Awesome,
Yes,
awesome.
yes.
And you're
So,
looking pretty also.
Oh, thank you.
as are
Just
you.
like you, right.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm trying to hold it down for Jessica.
And you're doing a good job. Jessica will be super proud.
All
So
right.
yeah, this will be our last segment
Aw.
of non-negotiables in our self-love chapter, and we'll move on to something
To something else interesting.
something
and
else interesting.
wonderful.
And you guys, if there's anything that you would like to talk about or hear about on it in the way of self-love, just drop some comments out there and we will absolutely take it into consideration. Or we never talk about our email anymore. She elevates at gmail.com. Is that
That's
right, Angela?
That
right.
is correct.
Okay.
I love it. I
So
love
yeah,
it.
she elevates at gmail.com.
Please send us some topics, suggestions. What do you guys want to
Yes.
talk about?
Or just some feedback.
Oh, we love feedback, right?
Because yeah, our goal is to really be impactful.
Yes.
And to help you. So help us help you. Let us know how you're feeling about what we're doing, and if there's anything that you want us to cover that we haven't yet. So, and we'll absolutely make.
And
make
you
it
know what?
happen.
And then it really does make us feel like we have a family that's a part and
Yes.
that's participating
Yes.
because they're elevators.
We're all
hers.
elevators.
We do have some hymns out there.
We have some hymns.
Elevators.
Elevate him. Tammy is the
Yeah,
she
stand
architects
up.
the words.
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
trying out my stand up.
Hashtag.
Now that I quit my day job. Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's
I
a
got
good
jokes.
one. That's a good one.
That was good, wasn't
That
it?
was good.
Okay, so where are we going today?
So today, these are non-negotiables, or I'll say spiritual non-negotiables.
Mm.
So we're coming from a spiritual perspective, which, to Tammy's point, we were talking earlier, is very different from a religious.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
So, Tammy, you want to kick us off?
Being the spiritual motivator that
Being
I
the
am.
spiritual motivator, this is your lane.
Well, of course, when we're having these discussions, I think it's important that we define terms
Okay.
because, one word could mean something different, right, from each the other person.
Yeah.
So I just kind of went out and I did a little research or digging to clarify so we could level set. When we speak of spirituality, it means different things to different people. For some, it's primarily about a belief in God and active participation in organized religion. For others, it's about non-religious experiences that help them get in touch with their spiritual selves through quiet reflection, time in nature, private prayer, yoga, or meditation. I think that's pretty spot on,
I
right?
like that definition.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
and
yes.
I agree with it.
Yeah.
So moving on, I just want to, again, set the ground rules or just kind of make these distinctions, right? Many people identify as spiritual, but not religious. And I'm having a flashback, and I'll interject that comment later, though, when someone asked me if I was religious. And this was so early on in my life.
Mm-hmm.
No one said that, but I was like, I don't know what you call it, maybe religious. It's because I have another story about that. But
Okay.
anyway.
So that was like a stick of
Yeah,
pins.
it was because I was growing up in church. I'll just talk about it. And on my job, people making assumptions about you.
Mhm.
And I was like, and he looked at me and he was so pleased that I said, well, I'm spiritual.
Mhm.
He was like, that's why I like you. I was like, okay. But it was really about my relationship with God.
Yeah.
That was more, what I was saying. But with a few exceptions, the percentage of adults who identify as religious in many industrialized countries that's declining. And I just heard this actually on the radio as well.
So what are you saying is declining? That people associate
People who
themselves
identify as religious, yes,
Okay.
attending the traditional church,
Mhm.
the attendance has dropped a lot with that as well.
Wow,
So
I didn't know that.
yes, while
So
remaining.
it's not just me.
Okay, see, they're going to jump in here. And I have to honestly be transparent. I had to pray that I do not get offended because, at some point in my life, I felt I had to defend the church. Even though I understood, but it was like, why y'all keep coming for the church? Why y'all keep coming? I'm like, you go for that grocery store. You don't go for your job. So then I had to realize, calm down. God can handle his own battles, right?
That's fact.
Okay, so listen up, though. I want to finish this. So they're remaining generally high in less developed nations. Even as religious affiliation decreases, though a sense of spiritual identification could remain steady or even increase.
Nice.
Isn't that interesting?
That is.
Isn't that interesting?
Well, I think everything evolves, and spirituality is no
different. No different.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. Because I think, and of course, I love that word, like you said, evolution, right? And I think about the song, Leah, you'll find out. I do get a lot of songs within my spirit.
Me too.
Because right now I hear everything must change, but I won't sing it.
Ooh, that's a good one, though.
Nothing stays the same.
That's a good one, though. And I feel like spirituality is a higher level. It is a being closer to who you are and how you were made and who made you, your creator.
Ooh, yes.
So more so than religious, it's like, let's just do A, B, C, D,
rituals,
E.
rules.
Yeah.
Now I will share this. So, of course, I consider myself, I am a church girl.
Mhm.
I grew up in church all of my life. I mean, can I say it one more time?
How long?
All of my life. I mean, like, right, 5 years old, getting baptized, being, singing in the children's choir, ushering, and then just evolving from different, actually even different religions.
Okay.
Traditional Baptist upbringing, then moving over into the holiness denomination, Pentecostal, a little more emotionalism over there, right? So I've had different experiences, but it wasn't until I actually became mature enough to realize I need a relationship with God. Because while you can sing in the choir and you can usher, but it really won't make a difference necessarily in your life. But one thing I will say is I do believe rituals and rules have its place. So I'm not saying let's get rid of them, not at all, but just understand that that's like a means to an end. It's not the end all. That makes sense.
And my spirituality is based and rooted in my religion.
Absolutely.
So I feel like spirituality, like you said, is all encompassing, right? So, and it evolves, and it's more focused on trying to cultivate a deeper connection with myself, my God, and others, and living in accordance with those values and principles that I have, which ultimately did stem from or come from the church.
Yeah.
I was raised and I grew up in church as well. So let's see, I was born into, let's say, I guess, Episcopal, into the Episcopal church, right? Mm-hmm. So I was an acolyte. I was very involved in the church. I was up on the altar on Sundays. Mm-hmm. I, had to go through my classes to take communion and everything, right? I then switched to a Baptist church. And that's where I actually got saved.
Okay.
In the Baptist church, First Baptist Church of Highland Park.
Let's just talk about that. She's still, I can tell she's a church girl.
Yeah.
Because who says saved in the real world?
But
Let's
I've never heard
define
the
it.
term acolyte.
Yes.
Different denomination.
St. Barnabas Episcopal Church. Yes, Episcopalian. And in the Episcopal Church. And then I ended up going to AME Church, Reed Temple, AME. I even taught there for a few years.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah. So I love going to church, fellowshipping, but I realized that my relationship is what's most important. And of course, you have some people, especially like in my family, who may say, well, you don't go to church anymore. Or why don't you? I will go to church, but I have not gone to church consistently. Lately. And I probably can't even count honestly on one hand, other than events. But I can't even count on one hand how many times I've been to church just to go and to worship. And since I've been probably in my early 30s. Wow. And I'll be 41 at the end of the month. Yeah. So, but God, he loves me regardless, right? Because I'm working on that relationship, with him, and trying to just better myself in accordance to what it is that I was taught, how I was raised. And so that's, for me, all my non-negotiables when it comes to spirituality and to, let's say, even religion, stem from my upbringing in the church. Yeah.
I'm so glad she brought that out, and I'm going to let Gail jump in, but just kind of going back, to some of the terms. I want us to be even clear, because that's one thing I have a little pet peeve about, because we do it a lot in church, right? We'll say things.
And I'm sorry to interrupt, but not just in church, everywhere. When you're at work, there's a certain.
Well, absolutely. Only because we're talking about spirituality.
Yeah, but I'm just saying it's not just a church thing.
See, that's my girl, right? Because, I hear comments about the church, hypocrites in the church or other things. And it's like, well, you don't think they're hypocrites on your job? You don't think they're hypocrites in that mall or grocery store? So to Gail's point, I believe when we take some of these labels off, then we'll be better able, right, to understand. We'll be able to, I think, even how we relate to people. So I like that, of course, when you use the term saved, I love that because that just touched my little spirit.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yes. And so, but I'll let Gail go because right now we want to talk about our non-negotiables as it relates to our spirituality, because we are spiritual beings. I do believe in that, that we're three parts, that we have a body, but within we have a spirit.
Right.
And that's the part that we're really focusing on. And for me, it's intentional living about those intangibles.
Yes.
Not about everything that I can see or touch, with my senses, but things, it's like deeper.
Yeah.
And so having that connection and that relationship with God is so much deeper than my rituals and the things that I did in a building. What you feel. So Gail, talk about your non-negotiables as it relates to spirituality.
And even before I get to that, I wanted to, since you guys talked about how you started with church.
Okay, yeah.
I just wanted to put my 2 cents in there. I don't have as extensive background as Tammy.
It's been pretty.
Sure, but I started church really in Tammy's mother's house. That's when I got saved. I'll use the term too, and then I started going to a church that is non-denominational. And that was the Church of the Lord Jesus Christ, I guess. And not that I guess, but it is. And so I've been there for years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Before we got married.
It was before I got married.
We had children.
After I got divorced. Yes. And so, I'd been involved in that church and had some church hurts, which is interesting. And, going to church, my perception was wrong. So I went to church thinking that, okay, these are the perfect people. Everybody is, their wings and halos are in the cleaners. But, pretty much this is the people. And so when I saw things happening that shouldn't happen, and I'll do my air quotes, nobody was really surprised but me. And it was just a whole lot that went on. And so I really embrace spirituality instead of religion, because I think you have more of an awareness of how this is a personal relationship with God, and that people are people.
Right.
People are going to people.
Absolutely.
And we're all human, and we're all on a journey to,
Right.
to be the best version of ourselves. And so, yeah, that's how I came up in church. But like you, Leah, now since the pandemic, probably.
Yes.
Maybe a little bit before that. But yeah, since the pandemic, I really haven't been into a building except on special occasions, or when I say I'm Tammy's armor bearer.
I'm not ready for all of it. That was good though. I love it.
And
I pull her in, Leah, and she says
events.
yes every time. She would say yes. Okay.
But like when TD Jakes is here,
We're
I
all
am there. I'm
We're
actually
there.
going to the Women Evolve conference in
yes.
Texas this year. So I love the spirituality, and I love people who can function beyond walls.
I like that.
I like
Which is
that too.
Tammy, that her mom was like that.
Yes.
It's like the church that we were in, it was like they were not ready for them. But
Yes, and when I heard the
not trying to be
term,
offensive.
I understand,
It's
and
just
I
different.
understand, because it's to no offense. And Gail, you said something earlier: evolution, evolving. I heard someone say that. Well, I'll just have this disclaimer. So that's interesting. They have, and that's what I love about our podcast, because we're so individual. But yet
Very unique.
Very unique. We have our own distinct individuality. So I'm a church girl. I still enjoy the church. I did take a break, not so much but when the pandemic occurred, then I said, wow, God, what are you doing? I think he's really trying to show us something with this, that we run to the building when he is within us, and we are the church. So what are you going to do when you don't have that structure? What are you going to do with God? Are you going to talk to him outside of the structure? So the pandemic really did, I believe, awakening or make people more aware for me. And I embraced it. It was just like, I can feel him. I can talk to him. Oh my God. And I don't even have to travel, because for me, our church was in La Plata. I live in Bowie, and that was almost an hour commute. So, add that we're picking up people. Right. So I said, hold up, y'all. God did this for me. God is doing a new thing. And, but really it did, I believe, stretch a lot of people. And so that's what I loved about it. So it wasn't even that we were trying to, come out of the box, but it was like, we are, because God is like, shut all that down. Yeah. Because I do believe sometimes we can make idols out of things, out of individuals, and so I embraced it. I love that. And I know Gail, I just love it when she tells that story, because I knew I was going to be there. Hey, yeah, come on, girlfriend, let's go to church. Because for me, and this is funny because I enjoy it. I have fun, even though sometimes you hear things that it's like an ouch, or, but I enjoy the fellowship. And you mentioned that early on. I enjoy coming together with like minds, and let's not talk about the music. I enjoy getting the motivation, getting the encouragement, whether it's the release. So, and I still embrace that. I embrace it. So, we're kind of going back in, and our church is not in the building. But we're fellowshipping with another ministry. And so that's really been interesting, because I've been away from it for so long. And it's like, okay, it does, it's almost like I look at it as a family, right? So when you come to the family reunion and you're with your aunts and uncles and cousins, that's a very exciting time. Right. So when you come to church, it's like that for me. But again, just embracing however, I believe we're on journeys, right? It's not about the journey. It's not about the destination. It's about the journey. Yeah. And so my thing is really to pray, because when I do hear people say, well, I'm not in the church anymore. I heard someone else say this, Leah, and I think Gail mentioned it, that the things that they were taught as a child, then the pastor came back and said, I'm sorry, I was wrong.
I love that though.
Right.
That's a good
vulnerability
person to do that.
And integrity.
Well, guess what they said? So you mean to tell me everything that you said was not true, and I was doing all these things, I'm out.
Right.
That for them was a turnoff.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, wow, allowing people the grace to grow.
Grace. We all fall short.
Yeah.
Nobody is perfect.
Yes. So I really do think that it helps in our walk. But so that's why I'm like, take the children to church so they can have that experience, and then they can make their decision. But it does, for me, gives us that opportunity to fellowship and to, like you said, just kind of, I'm coming to your house and have church service. I'm gonna come over there with the tambourine. Make sure your babies get.
And I'm gonna let you jump in, but something Tammy said just reminded me of a non-negotiable for Tammy. Even I don't even know if she realized this or thought about it, but she said, I came to church because of her. Well, there was I gave her a what do you call it? Anyway,
I'm ready to hear this.
I didn't have any dresses. I didn't have anything. Back then, people wore dresses to church. I didn't have a dress.
Right.
I didn't have anything. And I said, okay, I'll go to church with you if you go to the club with me.
See, how she gonna put me out there?
I'm just saying. But Tammy came to the club, and for me, that was huge because it was more about her love for people, and Christ commanded us to love. It was more about her love for people than it was about what they're going to say about me in the club. But the non-negotiable was Tammy was in the club, in a seat, not moving. She was there the whole night.
Well, I might even move more now.
Club on, and she did that, and so I'm like, I gotta live up to my part.
Hey,
I was in church.
Oh my God, I
And
can't even remember that. I
then.
didn't even remember because I did that with someone else. I was like, we're gonna leave here, and I will say the disclaimer
it was an ultimatum.
it was a that's happened before because again, where I was in my walk. It was really churchy. I wasn't as spiritual, so it didn't really seem like a big deal to me. And so, things have changed though. But yeah, because like I said, I've been in this for a long time. And so I think, wow, I don't even know if I was married then, right?
No,
so how many years ago?
We didn't have kids.
Wow, we're going to, but you're going, let's go back to really, now that we've kind of laid that foundation, kind of given that background. And I will say then I've evolved, right? Or it went from growing up, from that Baptist to that holiness church. Wow, let's talk about that rude awakening. Because the Baptist has a lot of structure and the buildings are pretty with nice pews. And it was like, here's the church, here's the steeple, open the door, see all the people. Right. Well, I went to the holy.
Last time you heard that?
I can't even believe I did that.
It took me a long time to try to get
Yeah, I was like, so now my mother, it has evolved and met an older woman who invited her to a holiness church in the hood. It was like on H Street. And so when she took us there, I was confused. Like, why are we calling this a church? Because there's no steeple. There are no pews. They had chairs. And it was just weird, right? So we sat there like, this is a cult. Oh, and my mother loved it. I mean, she was all slain in the spirit. I was like, oh my God. So just kind of giving a little background. I could go on and on with this one. And we stayed there for a while. And then we moved on. And yeah, now I'm about a teenager. And I was kind of like, yeah, when I went to another denomination, I'm thinking, oh, wow, these kids are really, really saved. I mean, they really like, until I hung out with them. I was like, whoa, y'all doing more than I'm doing.
Take the mask off.
Yes. And so let's just move fast forward. My husband and I became pastors, in which I thought, oh my God, what are you doing? Because I'm not even traditional. I don't even sound like it. I don't even have a preacher's voice in my mind, because there's traditional, like Gail says, ways you're supposed to look, you're supposed to talk, But I had my spiritual, my relationship with God. So I'm praying. And it was like almost in tears. I don't want to do this, God. He said, will you do it for one soul? I was like, just one? I think we can deal with that. So for me, when one person shows up, I think I met the assignment, mission accomplished. Anyway, so it's really still been, and I'm on a journey. I still am. I have not arrived, right? I love it though. I love to, but it's really about spirituality. And it's amazing to me that there are a lot of people in the church I think that are focused on the religion more so than their relationship. But then, we're getting there because it's talked about more. So some non-negotiables about spirituality. It's almost like, and I'll sound churchy because I have a song right now. Y'all want to hear it? You can't make me doubt him. I know too much about him. We used to sing that in church.
Non-negotiable.
I don't care what anyone else says because I have a relationship with God. So you can come tell me, don't go to church, don't pray. That's the white man's religion. The Bible was written by, I don't believe it. Guess what?
Because they will come for you.
You can't make me doubt him. You can't make me doubt him.
I agree.
Jessica's in the chat like, yeah.
I can relate to that too, because, and again, it's not even about the religious standpoint, right? Getting into specific names. It's just, for me, overall, we'll say God, right? While yes, I believe in Jesus, I'm just going to say God.
I got you.
I have been close to death 3 times, I would say. Yeah. Wow. A car accident. Oh, that story, that's something I'm going to have to share offline, yes, okay. But share it with the people. Okay. A car accident, my gallbladder almost rupturing. Our elevators. I'm so sorry. All of the elevators. A car, I said the car accident. I said, when my gallbladder was about to rupture, literally yeah. Wow. And then also I believe going back, recalling how I felt in with my second, the delivery of my second child. I was close to death then. Wow. Even you can see it in my eyes and in my faith. And I know that it was God who brought me out of that, who spared my life, who saved me, who said, nope, it's not my time. It's not your time yet. And so those things, when I feel down, I'm starting to now try to recall his grace and his mercy. And if I don't feel joy, you can't tell me that I shouldn't feel joy, or I can't even say to myself, Leah, you are feeling a particular way, but God. So there's no need to be down. So to me, that's a non-negotiable right there that I'm learning to acknowledge daily, is that things may not be exactly how you want them to be. You may not be exactly where you want to be. You're continuing to strive and grow, right? And that's where that introspection comes in. Introspection comes in, and that self-reflection. But I can remember and always recall, and this should be the premise too of my joy. I am still here because of God's saving grace. Wow. Yeah.
So we can't make you doubt.
You can't make me doubt. Come on there. That's a non-negotiable for me. Wow. Nobody can make me. Even looking at the intricacies. I know. Just one more thing. The intricacies of how I believe in science because I am a nurse. I also we conceived our second son through fertility treatments. However, all of this, so I believe in science, but when it comes to God, Big Bang Theory, that's a non-negotiable for me too. Just like how people can't tell me to doubt him. I can't doubt God and I won't doubt him. I also won't tell you, what you should believe.
Okay.
But looking at the intricacies of our world, how the food chain is, how the cycle of life is, how, the weather is, and the bird, the little ant, the tiniest little annoying ant and gnat.
Oh my God.
They have heartbeats too, so.
Don't make me feel guilty.
Don't worry, I do. Hurt no living thing.
She stepped on it.
Me too.
She probably sprayed it.
But
they're out of here.
He was in the wrong place.
Right. So, those are the things that make me say, wow, it's too much. It's too much thought put into this. It's too much evidence. It's not too much. It's so much thought. So much thought. It was designed a particular way.
That would be Genesis 1:1. In the beginning,
God
created. We could just stay there for me. God created heaven and earth. I am a believer. To the point you're saying, it's just so many, the intricacies are so evident that no human being could have done this, right? So I'm a believer in that as well. And I love that because, of course, I was hearing so many things when you talked about God and science. I'm like, of course, God created man and he's given man this ability. So I just wanted to interject the word of God. So when we think about spirituality, for me, what has helped me and what is a non-negotiable is his word. I believe John 1:1 when it says in the beginning was the word and the word was with God and the word was God, right? So his word, it's one aspect of him because he's so vast. But when you think about, for me, the word of God, which is the Bible, that is like your therapy guide. That is your encourager. It gives you so so much advice and guidance and inspiration. It's like I don't think sometimes that we leverage that enough, right? Because we're trying to just go out here, okay, God, and you know what? He can speak to us, right? But I think some things are written, and it's like. And it's a way I was taught is if you are dealing with, let's say, fear or I don't know, anger or disappointment or something, depression, and then you find scriptures that relate to that. Wow, it is like better than a psychiatrist or a psychologist or all of that. It does that for me. When I hear no weapon formed against me shall prosper, I'm holding on to that. And I will say, when I was in the hospital, because actually, I had a little girl, a baby girl, premature. And that was like, oh my God, a trying time, right? And as I was there, I was reading because my body was going through all of this. And then my mind, it was like I couldn't sleep. And then I just opened up the Bible and I started reading. When I went to Romans, oh my God, that became my favorite chapter, Romans 8. But one scripture stood out for me. In that moment, who would do this to tell me, for I reckon that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed. I was like, okay, wait a minute. I didn't just open that up. That was God letting me know what you're going through, this suffering here. It's nothing compared to, what I have in store for you. So hang in there, child, and it just does it for me. So I just wanted to shout out.
We got a question in the chat, ladies.
Okay, come on, question.
Someone said, should you feel bad if you change churches solely to avoid certain people?
Ooh, that is a good question. At first, I wanted to say, my mother used to say, Tammy, stop telling that story about how many churches we went to. Because I stood up and I was like, and then I went to this church, and then I went to that church. And I was like, for me, it was like people who go to schools. And, I've heard some people say, I went to 4 schools in high school or middle school. They changed schools and there was no shade. But when we changed churches, it's like, what?
Like your family.
It's like, wow.
Yeah.
So to avoid, it's the intent. I really do believe in seeking God. I do believe in praying and asking God before you move, because we can move out of our place. It's like, do you change your job because of people? Maybe you do, right? But I would say definitely, I would not say there's a right or wrong, but I do believe in seeking God. He may say he will release you, or he may say, what are you running for? You have something that you are going to get from that ministry or that you're going to give to the ministry. And we got that old adversary that wants us not to experience the growth, because there's growth even in your challenges or your situations that make you feel uncomfortable.
But what if it clashes with one of your non-negotiables? Like, I won't be around certain people. That's my non-negotiable. And I feel like I got to change churches because those people are there.
Some of those people may still.
But did they come? Were they there before you joined? Or did you see? That's a lot right there, because it's like you go to a church, right? You love. But first of all, can we slow down on membership? Can we not join the first visit? It's like a marriage here. Let's go for a while. Let's get to know the pastor and some of the members to see if this is a good fit. Because I believe God will merit your personality. He will mend and join your personality to ministries. How many churches are out here? So there's a lot of different personalities, a lot of different ministries. And did you jump the gun? I don't know. Gail, please jump in.
And so for me, I'm coming from a personal development perspective. And so for me, it's not even about the church. It's about that situation, that person that you are trying to avoid, because people are going to people, and it's how we respond to situations and not react by doing something like moving from a place that you love just to avoid this person. I would say deal with what in you is making you be uncomfortable with this person, and not so much about what they did or what they said, because they're going to be people at a different church that are going to be the same kind of people, and everywhere you go. It's about letting people, but not giving them your power by having you react based on what they're doing. I think you have to navigate within yourself how to deal with people who are going to be mean, nasty, or whatever, and still continue to grow, continue to reach your goals, be on your path despite what's going on. So that's how I feel.
And you know what I loved about that? Gail, she helps me even in church, because sometimes I'm so jaded with the church because I've been there so long. It's like, okay. So I have to kind of, calm down because, give people a fair chance. And I would say, engage your brain. Don't leave your brain at the door when you come in church. Gail was like, Tammy, that's kind of offensive.
No, I don't. And I don't use the word hate, but like when she say that.
And I've been saying it because it's like, I think about Jim Jones. It's like, people died because they just held on to that human being's word. And so I feel that it's healthy when you go inside of those four walls, right? And I still am smart. I still know how to comprehend and communicate. And I don't leave that at the door for the sake of the ministry.
And you know something Brenda Burchard says, it's almost up there with engage your brain, but it's a little softer.
I'm going to take on.
He says common sense isn't always common practice.
That's good. That sounds better.
I mean, I think because like we were saying earlier, you feel like they're family. So it's like that emotional attachment. And a lot of people experience church hurt. Like,
oh gosh.
Church is supposed to be a safe space.
Can we talk about church hurt? Because I'm going back to church.
But real quick before we say that, I just want to say what Jessica said in the chat. She said, set your boundaries. What are your non-negotiables? Some of the same may be at the next church. You can't keep running. Get that relationship with God and gain clarity.
We concur.
Jessica is on the podcast.
Come on, yes.
Let's go, Messi.
Yeah, but when we say church hurt, and I love the fact, and I think that this is healthy. So this is how I grew up, and I believe this is one reason why I'm still in church, because I was able to have these conversations with my mother at home. And I kind of did it on a regular. She was like, oh my God. Because I was able to be, and she allowed me to be really transparent and real. And she was just that as well. About things that we saw in church. And it was like, well, they're human, and why are you here? Your motive is one thing, right? And so don't get caught up. Don't get distracted, and you can move out too soon. So I love that what Gail and Jessica was saying. But when we say church hurt, I know we're just saying something happened at church, right? Yes. But things happen on our jobs. Yeah. Things happen in our families. And you said family. I was in a church and had, little clash, right? And I said, this is like family, right? Families don't always agree, but we don't run. Some of us, we stay with the family. We might have to pause for a minute, and then we come back together.
But to my point earlier, I think a lot of times it's about perspective, because it could be a hurt coming from a group of people who you had up here on this pedestal. And now you're not operating in what we said should be love. And so I'm hurt because you're the last person that I would expect to do this because of my perspective where I put you on this pedestal. Yeah. So
that's one thing. And what Gail was talking about with my mother being on the cutting edge. Shout out to the one and only Dr. Barbara Williams. I put her name in the atmosphere. She was ahead of her time. And we knew that. We called her the reality minister. And Gail says, I put you up here. she would literally share some of her vulnerabilities and things that helped us realize, okay, so you're going through that as well, or you're thinking like I am thinking, you're human. And so it's making sure that, again, you realize you're dealing with human beings, you're dealing with flesh and blood. Okay. It's like parents. Parents are not perfect, right? But the child may realize, oh my God, my mother, my father did this, but they're still your parents and they meant well. But now that you know better,
and they
you do
did
better.
the best that they could with what they had.
Yeah.
You don't realize that till you're older and mature.
Exactly. Because now they may evolve. Maybe they won't, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they won't.
And it's okay.
Okay. So I just love I just think it's such a wonderful, wonderful discussion. And I think every elevator really needs to think about their spirituality and their non-negotiables. I like having non-negotiables talked about because it makes you intentional. I'm going to go in with this. This is not up for discussion. This is a showstopper. Okay, so what I'm not going to do, or setting those boundaries. Yes. Absolutely.
Someone else in the chat said, I feel one should attend a church where they are spiritually fed. I go for the word, not the people.
Oh, okay, go for the word. I love that as well. But here I am to say, okay, I like that. And I also like relationships. So sometimes when we, I think that's the ultimate, but you at some point may have to relate to these people. I'm not here because of you, but since I'm here, I'm going to cross paths with you. Let's say if I join a ministry or an organization in a church, now that's when you're really going to find out about the people. I'm just saying, y'all go ahead, go to the mega ministry and don't do nothing. But when you join a ministry, because I had family, I had friends, and that's what they did. See, I've always gone to small ministries as well, very intimate, family-oriented ministries. And so a friend of mine was going to a mega ministry, and I was like, that's great, because I like, to go and visit. And she was so upset when she joined, I won't even say, let's just say hospitality or something. She bumped heads with the director, but she would have never known that because it was great and wonderful. And I'm like, but just stay there, because sometimes God puts you in positions to stretch you, to push you, to develop you. See, we want to grow. Come on, what plant grows without being stretched, without some dirt or some water and rain? But we don't want it. Look, we out now. The secret is out. Many are the afflictions of the righteous, but God delivers us out of them all.
Yes.
So we're going to have some issues in life. Okay. Come on, yes.
So speak time. No, I'm sorry. I know y'all my name right here.
No, but it's a great conversation. And one thing too that I think about that's a non-negotiable for me as well, as aligning myself with people who won't disturb or move or make me feel like I need to change who I am in terms of my integrity and authenticity.
Don't put your beliefs on me.
Right.
It's not wrong, it's different.
Right. Just like I wouldn't put my beliefs on you, but also I have to stay true to my morals and my values. So if what other people are doing does not align with my morals and values, I can still, kiki with you. I can still, maybe hang out, but it depends on what it is. So it goes back to like the example that you all gave in terms of, how Miss Tammy went to the club, with you, and you went to church with her.
Yeah,
but she was
my church card.
But she was authentic to her. She did not allow whatever was going on in that environment to change who she was, how she behaved.
So her non-negotiable.
Exactly. So that's a non-negotiable for me. Anything that will take me away from, who I am, who I know I am, whose I know I am. Ooh. Whose I know I am. That integrity, that authenticity. And I know we don't have enough time for this, but just talking about authenticity, I feel like have to learn to continue to strive to be great. Not just to be good, to be mediocre, but to be great. And that should be a non-negotiable right there. Don't live in fear. And that's a word to myself. Don't live in fear. there's so much out there, so much life out there to live, so much for you to get, so much for you to gain. But we have to stop living in fear and be obedient to that. And this goes back to spirituality. What is that feeling? What is tugging you on the inside? What do you feel? What is that spirit saying to your spirit? And how are you going to
address it
and acknowledge it?
Wow. Yeah. I'm just trying not to take over and hog this conversation.
I just have one thing to say.
Because
Leah is all over my non-negotiable.
Okay.
Because my non-negotiable is...
I'll give y'all another 5 minutes.
Thank you, Antoinette. My negotiable is all around being your best self, continuing to grow. And for me, it's like y'all said, you can't make me doubt them. What I believe is that I am created by an omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent.
Where you get that from?
Because I did go to church.
I'm just saying.
A being who created and sustains the entire universe 24/7.
My God.
He created me in his image. And because of Christ, his spirit is in me, which means I am a creator. I'm created in his image, and I'm not going to, the non-negotiable is me not living up to my potential and disregarding who I am and whose I am by being fearful or living beneath my abilities, because we have the ability to create the life that we want based on whose we are.
Based on whose we are.
Yes.
There you go. So again, I'll just say this for me. None of that can happen without a relationship with God.
Facts.
I just don't believe it.
Facts.
God is love. We can't really love without God.
Yes.
Spitfire answers. Top three things you do to keep your spirituality, like how active in your lives. Like, what do y'all do?
I have a morning routine, and one of those things in my routine is prayer and meditation. Oh, you want 2 more things? Okay, can you ask the question again? I'm sorry. That's what happens when you think you know your answer before you finish hearing the question.
3 things you do to keep your spirituality.
So that is one. Another thing is I attend Bible study at Tammy's church because it's very different, and I can be very open and vulnerable and talk about anything, drinking, sex, whatever. And Tammy's going to relate it to the Bible. And she also helps me with the Bible, because it's hard for me. I'm a very literal person. And so that King James stuff, I'm sorry, the King James Bible, the word, I need you to put that into 2023 terms. How does that relate to me today? And so, yeah, that's another thing I do. I attend Bible study. And I guess the third thing I do, I'm still online. I'm on TD Jakes and those people who feed my spirit. Absolutely. And so, yeah, those are the 3 things I do.
Yeah.
Same thing. I have a morning ritual because I kept saying, how am I supposed to, or how am I sharing the goodness of God, right? But I'm not always consistent with being in the word. And so I do my daily devotions and I answer questions. So journaling, that helps me with that self-reflection and introspection. The other thing that I do, I'm in community with other women who we are through my mom group. We do our U version, our Bible app. We do devotions on there. And so we do certain plans. Yes, shout out to U version, to the Bible app. And also I have my children doing that now too. In the morning, they have a kids version. And so they enjoy it, and they're retaining the information. And so that's how my kids get it, through the Bible app, through me preaching and trying to practice, and put into practice what it is that I'm trying to explain and preach to them. And then also through Bible stories. And then the last thing, I would say the same thing, podcasts, as well as watching on YouTube, as well as listening to, joining in live on Sunday morning sometimes.
Awesome. We kind of all are doing a lot of the same things.
Yes.
Of course, prayer, that's just key for me.
Specifically a 6 a.m.
See,
she always got outdo everybody.
Well, actually, on Saturdays, my cousin has a 5 a.m. prayer. And sometimes it's like a push. It's like, let me try to do that. So, hey, I struggle in that area sometimes. But yes, pray in your community. And that's basically talking to God. And I don't just do it at one time. I do it throughout the day when I'm facing certain situations or, so praying the word, my God. Let's not talk about how many Bibles, because understanding who he is and his character and his nature. So I love reading the word, the Bible study, book club, discussing the word with others. So, and fellowshipping. That's my whole attending church, being around, and you guys said it, putting myself in positions where other like-minded people are and where I can express myself.
Find what works for you.
Yeah.
That's like we talk about all these different versions of the Bible. Find what works, what you can understand, what you can read and understand. And sometimes you may have to reference other Bibles or other, what do you call it?
I don't want to jump in. I don't want to overtake it, but I will say this. Sometimes that's why the Bible does say, how can you hear except you have a preacher? Right? Because sometimes you need someone else to help you understand that word. You can read it. And let's not forget, you can read letters on a page, right? But there's a revelation behind it. There's something more that the Spirit wants to get inside of you. It's like we read this over and over and over, but then one day you have this.
Get an understanding. If you don't understand it, you can quote it.
What good is it?
And let me read Jessica's real quick. She said, pray, talking to God, meditate, listening to God, and serving. Those are her three.
Listening.
Yeah.
Listen.
All right, go ahead, wrap it up, ladies.
Let's just wrap it up. God is good, and we are embracing our spirituality, and it is what has made us, helped us, shaped us, molded us, and who we are. Don't forget, he has a spirit that wants to live inside of you. I believe it is. It just needs to be kind of acknowledged. You just acknowledge his Holy Spirit that will lead and guide you. I am a believer of that.
And don't do God a disservice by not being the best you.
Ask him, talk to him.
Don't stoop down. Don't shrink down.
Don't shrink down.
Don't make yourself small.
And you know what else? Think about it. He is our Heavenly Father. So it's not like you're too bad or you're not good enough or they're better than. God loves you. He loves each and every one of us. And he wants us to have a relationship with him.
Have grace for yourself and others.
If she say that grace word, because the month of May is the 5th month, which 5 stands for grace in the spiritual world, right?
Yeah, we are all May birthday.
Oh, look, I'm going here. I didn't know where we were going with this.
Me, Leah, and Antoinette.
Oh my God, Jessica, where are you, boo? That's my scorpion. Okay, you guys, this has been wonderful.
Sounds like we can talk about this forever and ever. We're very excited about spirituality because that's who we are. But we are at the end of this podcast, guys. Thanks for all the questions, for the engagement. Yes. And we are signing off. We will see you next time.
Let there be glory, honor. Oh,
bye.
Wow. Antoinette always let her be the turn. How was that? Did I go?